The transfer portal is one of the most polarizing things in college football right now. Most fans, they hate it. They see players leaving for more money, chasing clout, and jumping from one big school to the next. And yeah, sometimes that's the case, but that's not the full picture. The truth is, most players are not transferring for a bag. They're transferring for a chance to play the game they love before their time runs out. Back in 2021, I was in the portal. For 2 weeks, I was uncertain about what my future would hold. I thought I could potentially be one of the thousands of players that enters the portal and never leaves. And every time a coach hit me up just to ghost me, that thought lingered in my head even more. But 4 years ago, I was one of the lucky ones and managed to find a home. But this is the part of the portal 24/7 or On3 doesn't talk about. This is my story. I've talked in the past about why I decided to transfer from Michigan. It was really because I started my career as a walk-on. When you're a walk-on, you're always gonna have that stigma of how you started off, no matter how well you do, unless you like truly establish yourself. I was just ultimately never able to do that. By the time we got to the 2021 spring, we brought in a new defensive staff, and the second practice I had in front of them, I actually had to leave early because I caught COVID, missed pretty much the entire spring ball. So at that point, other guys had started to establish themselves. We were already bringing back 2 starters. And when I came back from my first practice, saw what it was, I was like, yeah, I'm hitting the portal. I really had zero clue what to expect going in because it's not like I was just some highly established Big Ten starter. Like, I was a backup. I played some minutes. I ended up getting a bigger role due to some injuries. But the process to actually enter the portal is very simple. You just go to the compliance office. I think you fill out like a form or 2, boom, you're in the portal. Before I did that, went to Coach Harbaugh's office, just told him, yo, I'm deciding to enter the portal. It wasn't really so much of see if he can convince me to stay or not. It was like, yo, I'm entering the portal. Thank you for everything you've done. I think he understood it. He realized what was happening because he didn't really push back against it. I mean, he would have wanted me on the team still. I provided value, but I think he knew like, all right, this is a guy who can play football, wants a bigger role, makes sense. As soon as I told him that, I made sure to go down to my locker and take everything out of it because a lot of y'all not gonna know this, but as soon as your name hits the portal, like you send the paperwork into compliance, within like 10 minutes, your entire locker is cleared out. Like we used to have nameplates above. Every time a guy would hit the portal, within like 10, 15 minutes, you would know because his locker would be empty. The other thing that happens when you hit the portal is all of your access to pretty much anything gets cut off. So we used to have this thing called Fueling Blue. It was essentially like you had $60 a week to spend at different restaurants or grocery stores around Ann Arbor. Yeah, that shit went to zero as soon as I hit send. And I low-key folded too because I think I had like $45 left on it. And I just said that all your access gets cut off. That also includes the film. So most college programs use this thing called Exos. As soon as you transfer, password, username do not work. Luckily, I knew I was going in the portal pretty much over the weekend, so I was able to compile all my film. There were low-key still a few clips that I didn't have, so I had to go to one of my teammates, borrow his iPad, screen grab the clips, and then send them to myself. At this point, I am no longer a University of Michigan football player. And I just pretty much went home. As soon as I got back, look at my phone, and my Twitter's starting to jump a little bit. I just have a bunch of coaches from all over the country start following me, directors of player personnel, things of that nature. And I'm like, holy shit, bro, like this is way different than my high school recruiting story. And I remember the first school that like kind of caught my eye was West Virginia. So one of their position coaches followed me, one of their player personnel people followed me, and I think one of their like GAs followed me too. So I got a bunch of follows from West Virginia. I'm thinking like, all right, I go down to the Big 12. Now they don't really play defense down there, but hey, I can do my job. That's all that matters to me. And low-key, I think I actually got a DM from one of them. Yeah, responded. I'm thinking like, all right, let's get this ball rolling here. That was the last time I ever heard from West Virginia, like that first day. Oh, and I forgot to say this, but there are different types of transfers. So you have the up transfer, which is usually a guy from a smaller school leaving, go to a bigger school, either for a bigger role or a bigger payday. Now, some up transfers can get a little grainy because sometimes what I've seen is schools will recruit a guy kind of as a backup plan, an insurance plan as depth. So, all right, we have 50 bands to break off. We'll give you 50 bands, but you're probably gonna be the backup, so you're not gonna play that much. You don't wanna be in that situation. I've also seen it where, the guy like Jared Verse goes from Albany to Florida State. That's the up transfer you see in the headlines a lot of times. Then you have the lateral transfer. Now, this is the guy who usually got some film or played at a certain school, or they're a high level recruit, 3, 4, 5-star. It just didn't work out for whatever reason. They usually transfer to a school of similar stature. Now, a lot of times these guys were highly rated coming out of high school. It just didn't work out at their first school for whatever reason. Think of a guy like Jackson Dart going from USC to Ole Miss. And the final type of transfer, and this is the one most guys in the portal are, is the down transfer. So whatever the reason may be, a guy's at a bigger school in search of more playing time, goes to a school at a lower level. Now, don't get it twisted at all. These are guys who are looking for playing time. These are guys who want to continue their football career and actually be on the field. There is no thought whatsoever of money or anything like that. So someone like me, started my career as a walk-on, did earn my way onto the field, But Michigan, it's a school that's high in stature. So there's not really a place to up transfer to. Schools on a similar level to it, they're not really gonna be interested in a 5th-year guy to come in and be a starter. So I knew I probably wasn't gonna be a lateral transfer. So the only other option was I was gonna be a down transfer. And I was perfectly fine with that. I knew that's probably what it was gonna be going into it. I knew in my head though, I just needed somewhere where I can be on the field against, good competition. I was hoping I could drop down to maybe a lower tier P5 school or a high level G5 school. Now for me, the FCS was also an option, but that was kind of my hope. I was like, all right, maybe we go to like a smaller ACC school, or maybe, we're at a Mountain West or Sun Belt or AAC school. Either way, like I don't want to be one of those guys who is too picky or is like, these aren't the offers I want, and then holds out and doesn't get anything. The first day goes by, I'm starting to respond to DMs and everything. And I remember the first school to actually offer me, I forgot who it was. It was someone in Kentucky, but they didn't offer scholarships, and I think they were just offering like literally everyone in the portal. So I was like, oh, thank you, coach. I appreciate it. Kind of knew I wasn't gonna go down that route, but I was like, much love. So I spent the rest of the day pretty much responding to schools. A lot of the schools were smaller FCS schools. I'm not gonna turn anything down. One thing I've learned in the world of college football is it's a small world. You never know where people are gonna end up. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna, not turn anyone down, not shut anything down, just keep an open mind about everything. But then I wake up on day 2, and that's when things started to pick up a little bit. So the first school that reached out that kind of like really caught my attention was University of Louisville. I think it was one of their players or personnel guys, reaches out, says, yo, we definitely need someone that can be a safety, come in, make an immediate impact. So I send him my film, takes a look. He's like, yo, really love what you do on the field, love what you were able to show at your time at Michigan, definitely gonna be in contact with you. So I'm like, oh, I bet this is what it's like to be recruited. Because mind you, I didn't have this experience in high school. A couple days go by, he's like texting me nonstop and everything. I'm thinking like, yo, it's a done deal. I started looking up apartments in Louisville. But then after a few days, look at the messages, I'm like, he ain't respond. Another day goes by, he ain't respond again. Another day goes by, still hasn't hit me back. So I shoot him a message like, yo, like everything's still good? And he was like, yeah, we just decided to go in a different direction. So I'm like, damn. All right, well, looks like Louisville's off the board. At the same time everything was going on with Louisville, Minnesota reached out to me. And while Louisville was, I'm not gonna say out of the blue, but while I had no connection there, I actually had a major connection to Minnesota. So Michigan fans know that Ben St. Juice was a corner, same class as me. Things didn't work out because of some medical stuff. Ends up transferring to Minnesota, doing well, becoming an NFL draft pick. He's one of my best friends. The coach at Minnesota asked him about me, Ben put in the word, so then corners coach from Minnesota reaches out to me. They wanted me to play corner. Mind you, I had been a safety my last 2 years at Michigan, but I was like, hey, I can play DB all across the field. So the first contact we had was on like a Wednesday, I'm pretty sure. So, we're going back and forth, talking about stuff. We hop on a phone call, and he's pretty much going through everything with me about what they did with Ben, how he kind of developed through their system, what Coach Fleck's all about. He starts telling me about the corner room. He's going through it. He's like, yeah, we got this old guy, very experienced, kind of injury prone though, so we just have to make sure he's good. Then we have a couple of young guys who we don't know if they're there yet with spring ball. Now, remember what I said. A lot of schools are gonna bring guys in as depth pieces just in case someone young with a lot of potential isn't quite ready. So I heard that, and in the back of my head, I'm kind of like, if that's how you're talking about it, I don't know if I really wanna be here. Like, the whole reason I'm transferring is to be a starter somewhere. So if you're talking about, we have these guys we love, they're just not ready yet, what if they get ready before the season? Now, I don't tell him that, I just want as much traction as possible, but that's kind of in the back of my head. He's like, I'm gonna get back to you, see if they're like, I got the green light to offer you. So whole weekend, I'm sitting there giddy, I'm like, he's definitely gonna offer me, bro. Like, the last corner they took from Michigan, balled out there, it's a done deal again. Well, I ain't hear from bro ever again. And that's exactly why I don't get my hopes up at all now. And while things weren't really working out with the bigger schools, I did have a good amount of group of 5 and then some high level FCS schools start reaching out to me. So the first one that really showed a lot of interest was James Madison. Those of you that know James Madison now know that they're in the Sun Belt. They're one of the better teams at the group of 5 level. They transitioned really quickly. They even petitioned because they were undefeated one year to get the bowl ban lifted for them. But at this time, they were still in the FCS. Being a guy from Jersey, they did have a big recruiting presence up there. So I knew a bunch of people that went there, balled out. I knew they sent guys to the league. So I'm like, all right, if it's James Madison, I'm not mad at that at all. So I'm talking to the safeties coach, the DC. Things are actually like really starting to progress in a way they weren't just with Louisville and Minnesota. So I'm feeling good because it's like, all right, if this is what I have to call home, content with that. Then a couple days after the ball started rolling with James Madison, I got a DM from Coach Morris at Utah State. Now, at the time, the only things I knew about Utah State were Jordan Love and Chucky Keaton. So obviously I got to do a little bit of research. Look up Utah State. I'm like, oh shit, they went 1-5 the year before. Like, we were bad at Michigan, but Oh, 1-5, that's even worse. They didn't even play their last game of the year. When you're looking for playing time, none of that is a concern. So he reaches out to me. He's like, you have any film? Send him over my film. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna get back to you in a day or two. 2 days later, I got a DM from Coach Bonda, the safeties coach and defensive coordinator. So I sent him my number, we hop on a call, and he's pretty much telling me how he's excited about how the team's looking, about how there's a new energy about it, how they're not gonna be a one-win team again. Then he's asking me a little bit about myself, where I'm from. At the end, he's like, so just to be clear, you were a walk-on at Michigan. And I was like, yeah. So he's like, did you ever earn any scholarships out of high school? I was like, nah, no school really wanted to pull the trigger. So then he's like, all right, well then let me be the first. So I'm sitting there like, yo, I really just got my first offer of my life. So we get off the phone and then, I call my parents. They're ecstatic for me. And I'm like, hold up, I gotta post this. I ain't never got the chance to do that in high school, so I gotta do it right now. Blessed to receive an offer from Utah State. I remember my brother even called me. He was like, yeah, bro, I wanted to get that offer for 6 years already. But yeah, I had to post that. So I'm like, all right, we got the first offer. That's really what I needed, right? Just needed to know that I'm not gonna be stuck in the portal. Maybe not stuck in the portal because I had James Madison, but like I said, I really wanted to be at the FBS level. So now it's like, all right, I have an FBS option. And when I jumped in the portal, I did say in my head, one of my criteria is whatever school shows the most love the earliest, that's gonna be a big part of my decision, mainly because I'm not going here to have a college experience. I'm not going here to, take a certain major. It's I'm going here to play. So if a school wants me, that's where a lot of my thought process is going. And then over the course of the next few days, I had a bunch more schools reaching out to me. They didn't really want to pull the trigger. I'm sitting there I already got an offer. They were like, what offers do you have? I'm like, I got Utah State, got James Madison. They're like, all right, yeah, we're evaluating our room right now. We're in spring ball, but we're gonna keep you in touch. But like I said earlier, I was trying to be in and out of the portal. I did not want to waste any time there. I didn't want to sit around and then Utah State offers a different safety and they don't have room for me anymore. So it gets to around April 12th. I remember I reached out to a bunch of schools that I've been talking to and I was like, yo, I really want to make a decision soon. If you guys are gonna offer me, great. If not, just let me know. And I remember SMU, they were pretty high on me too, but they were like, yeah, we really just want to wait till after spring ball to get a full evaluation of our guys. And I'm like, y'all spring ball don't end until April 23rd, 24th. That's a long time. No schools pulled the trigger over the next couple days. So I was like, hey man, I don't know really anything about Utah. Mind you, this is during when COVID restrictions are still in effect, 2021. So I didn't even really have a chance to visit. I just had to pretty much blindly commit to playing out in Utah. But on April 17th, 2021, called Coach Bonda, told him, I'm in, let's get it. And I packed my bags, drove off to Logan, Utah. And low-key, I didn't even know if it would have stoplights or anything like that. I thought there was a good chance it could have dirt roads all over. It ended up being much more technologically advanced than I think I thought it was. I think I was thinking Amish country low-key. But yeah, went out to Utah and I would say move worked out for the best.
Turner drops back to pass, escapes the pressure, throws near side, picked off. Hunter Reynolds.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
And there is an interception by Hunter Reynolds.
A 51-yard scoop and score on the fumble recovery by Hunter Reynolds.
What Coach Bonda ended up telling me a couple years down the road was that he actually spoke to one of my coaches at Michigan. Coach Jean-Marie pretty much said yo, he's a high character guy, hard worker, started his career as a walk-on, has the respect of everyone in the building, good football player. And that's one of the things that ultimately led Bonda to offer me as early as he did, or as quickly as he did. That's why you don't ever want to act in a way that will rub people the wrong way, because you never know when a coach is going to need to put in a good word for you. So, if you're that guy that's an asshole all the time, he might say, yo, don't take this kid, which if that happened, who knows? Maybe I never would have ever left the portal. And whether or not I had actually got any other offers, I don't know if it really would have meant anything. I think Utah State, it was always in my head, this is really the first school to ever believe in me. So hey, I'm gonna run with that. So that's my transfer portal story. Luckily, it wasn't a horror story where I got left in it, but it wasn't a super glamorous NIL battle you see on ESPN and 24/7 all the time. But yeah, that story right there, while it's not the one that makes the headlines, that is the one most people live.